Today we're going to work on the AR5 a little bit. Got to get the Bellhousing straightened out. I've got the R154 Bellhousing on the AR5. We got to RTV the front cover, and I think we about have everything. There's one more thing I got to do, but I think we about have everything to put it together, but I have to grind on a piece, and we'll go from there. But we're going to at least get started on it, so that way we've got the whatever we decide on a 2JZ, we'll have the transmission ready. Still got a bunch of machine work to go on the 2JZ. Still debating on what pistons I'm going to run, if I'm going to limit myself at the 700 range, and that being on the top end using stock pistons, or if we're going to try to go ahead and push a higher number and go ahead and get some pistons. It's kind of holding me up, and sometimes I just take my time doing things, and that way I think it through and I don't get stuck one way or the other until I decide confidently that that's what I'm going to do and that's all I'm going to do. So still kind of nosing around trying to decide something there, but in the meantime I'll go ahead and get this transmission put together, finished up, and ready for install, and that way we can move it out of the way. It's done. I have everything. I know I have everything for it. So that's where we're at. All right, here we go. Okay, so you end up having the R154 Bellhousing on the AR5 transmission, and there's the plate where it lives. So what the problem I'm having is this, I can get him out of there. So this style slave cylinder, it lives where these two bolts are right here. Well, the inner rim is hitting this edge of this plate here. Well, I was debating, do I grind this down and then that way I don't have to worry about the plate? Well, I got to thinking, well, if this fails, this is just a fixed piece, this is a hard piece, it shouldn't fail. If this fails, I'll have to grind the next one down. Well, if I grind this piece down, it's not going to hurt anything. And if this fails, that's the one time I'll have to grind it, so I'll have that indentation there, and we can do whatever. So the transmission state, we'll have this problem on every one we ever do. So it needs to be ground down to be able to install this. So that'll have to be ground down. I'm going to have to mark that. You can see it's kind of stuck the clutch in here. Some bolts and stuff. The pilot bearing, it has to be a different one. It's, the ID of this is different than the AR5, so you can't just buy AR5 pilot bearing or a 2J pilot bearing. You end up having to get one that has AR5 inside and the 2J outside. So it'll fit the AR5 here and it'll fit the 2J on the outside because it goes on the inside of that crank. So that actually pushes into your crank. So that needs to fit here and on the other side. Okay, on the clutch disc, you have to get an AR5 clutch disc. Well, the way I did it, there's a couple different ways you do it. And I'm gonna have the pull type clutch. So my clutch will be, once you bolt your clutch up and all that, and the clutch disc is in on your transmission side on your pressure plate, well, this will actually be in this way because it's a pull style, and so when you hit your clutch, this will actually come backwards. So this arm will actually push out, and that the forks will actually roll in. So it will actually pull your fly or pressure plate instead of, you know, most of the time you see, you know, you push it, and so it actually pushes that, you know, the throwout bearing forward. On these, it pulls it away from it. It's crazy design, I know, but that's the way they work. So I have to take this bell housing back off. I got you have to go to R154, the bearing retainer, the cover here. It has to be for an R154. It'll bolt up. It looks kind of like there's a place missing, but there's not up here at top. But this has to be for an R154. There's a seal inside here. I didn't order that seal, and that's what's held me up. So I had to reorder some stuff and get that seal in that next batch of stuff. But this type of arm, it just pulls out. So you have to put this in. You have to have transmission installed to the motor, hooked up, bolted up, because the pressure plate and the way that arm works, you have to put this in after it's all together. It's weird, I know, but if you've never dealt with it, this is my first. But I'm learning it. And my Bellhousing bolts, my pressure plate bolts, Bellhousing bolts for another job I got. And we're going to have to get some longer. The AR5 bolts, one of these or a couple of them are too short, so I have to set and figure out those. And so right now, let's take this off, put my seal in it, RTV it, and we'll be ready to reinstall all that. Well, I have to grind this plate down, but all right, let's get to it. All right, so this kit, I don't know if you've seen the box opening video or whatever, but this kit, it has longer dowels. It did come in the kit where this adds in length, so you do have, well, that thing was gone, but it does have longer dowels for you to use or whatever. So when you put these on, this will actually go into your Bellhousing like it should, so that extends those out. So if you have dowels, you have to pull those old ones out if you use this kit, which I think this kit is more of an oddity. And so what I have to do here on the back of it is use this shifter. It's a shifter relocator because it's the 4-bolt instead of the 2, 4, 6 bolt ones like the regular R154s. Most of them you get the R154 housing and shifter and you're good, but the 4-bolt ones don't work that way. So, and I hear that the S chassis are a little longer, so I don't know if this thing will be long enough. And if it's not, we may have to go to the CD00A with the tripod or the extended shifter. Or if there's an option to add another shifter even further back, we may have to go to that. But that has to happen too. So we'll take this plate off, because we'll have to add a seal in here. There's a seal that lives right there, so I forgot that, dude. So I'll put that seal in, clean this up with some brake clean where it's got some RTV on it, old RTV, and then we'll put this jewel together. So that's what you look like without the, I guess, the bearing cover or front cover. But this is actually what broke on the 240 when I first got it. This thing broke off. These are definitely fairly durable for what they are. But I'm gonna clean some of this stuff up, install this seal, and get ready to RTV this piece. All right, here we go. All right, so we got the cover plate. I've already RTV'd it and put it on. Put my seal in. Now we're gonna get our bolts started. We'll go ahead and set the spacer on, try to figure out what we need to grind. Okay, so this is what you got. line the holes up where they live. And keep in mind there'll be a dowel here, and so it won't have really any travel. So it has to live pretty much the only place it can. And that's going to just barely clip that in, just a hair. And it's going to be just a little bit. So I mean, I just got this side, there's just a little place where it kind of meets right there, and I need to get that cut back just a hair. That's all we got to do. All right, we're gonna see if that was enough ground down. I went ahead and mounted it to this actual Bellhousing piece. There we go. Maybe that dowel just got gauled up, but yeah, we're on there now. So that'll work. She's ready to bolt on, and that'll be our AR5 with our R154 Bellhousing. Let's get the bolts figured out and we'll get them put in. Okay, so some of these, let's lower you down here. Some of these bolts that go in here, that's going to be lower than where this one is. This one's going to be lower than that one. So, and then this one's going to be probably, I think, the tallest one. These two will be. And these two. But, so, the bolts you have aren't going to be quite long enough to go through both those pieces. So you're going to have to get longer bolts. So I have to hunt some longer bolts. I did find one longer, just to have an example to go off of, but it's a little too long for the lower spots. So I'm going to dig some bolts out. If you use this adapter, plan on getting some extended bolts of some sort. So that's one thing I got to work on now. All right, here we go. All right, so had to find some bolts, had to dig around to get the right length on some of them. This one, I left that washer on it. It almost acted like it was trying to bottom out, so I left that bigger washer on it. I put the regular ones back in the lower ones. I found some longer ones for the top holes. These are the factory ones. That's a longer one, and that's a longer one. But I think we're at least about ready. I'll probably pull this back off, so when I put the fork in, once I get everything ready, the shift fork will be hard to get in with this in the way. So I'll take that off when I get ready to actually install this piece. So that's the way that goes. And so everything else will install on the motor side. So I have to take the actual slave cylinder off and this piece, put it all together, and then slide this piece in, put the slave cylinder on, and it'll be ready to rock. But that's pretty much it. So the AR5, do we want to call it done? I wouldn't mind painting this thing. I was looking at the Steal It, the spray stuff. It'll make it look gray like the Bellhousing is. But I don't think I'm going to spend the money to do that. I'll need to clean this more, but if I do, usually what I do is just do a high temp paint like this gray, but not the actual Steal It. So I may just do a high temp paint like I normally do, pull this off, pull all the accessories off, clean it more, and then do it. So we'll see. We may at least do that even if we don't buy the expensive stuff and do it. That's like, I think $40 a can for a can of spray paint. I don't know about that, but I'll end up pulling all this stuff off and spraying it, but who knows. So that's that. Again, with this swap, you have got to use the AR5 disc. It has to, I think there's a number, I don't remember the measurement that this has to be. I think 9 and maybe a 1/16 or an 1/8 or something. That's how big this disc needs to be. But I think that's the way the R154 clutch kit comes, with pretty much the same size. Just I think it's just whatever that kit comes. Just make sure it fits the AR5 pressure plate and flywheel. Make sure those pads hit. You'll measure for that. That's what I end up doing. And you'll need to get you some flywheel bolts and pressure plate bolts, and that'd be it. So there we go. We're ready to, obviously this don't live here, just so you know. That goes between the pressure plate and the flywheel, and all that goes on the motor. But this is keep from losing it. But all right, here we go. We've got all this together.
I'm feeling high.